Boom. Breaking news. Very dramatic. Welcome into the Locked On NBA Free Agency 2023 Madness. A new report just in. Kylen Mills, your host here, host of the Locked On Warriors podcast, basketball analyst, many other things. Joined now by Nick Angstadt, host of Locked On Mavs, Locked On NBA, doing all the things for the Locked On NBA network. How you holding up today, Nick?
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great.
Kyrie Irving is back.
All smiles.
Not sure how to feel, but think I know how good the deal is.
Okay. All right. Well, let's spell out the deal for folks. We're here to break down 8-time NBA All-Star point guard, 1-time NBA champion Kyrie Irving returning to the Dallas Mavericks. Reportedly a 3-year, $126 million contract is the latest I'm seeing. What do you make of those numbers?
This is a good deal for the Mavericks because it's only a 3-year deal. As we know, we've seen Kyrie in different instances, different teams, different scenarios, with different star players, different coasts, different all over the place for Kyrie. And he's been a flight risk in a bunch of different places. And so getting just a 3-year deal, I think, is a good deal for the Mavericks. The other way that this is a really good deal is it's only $126 million. And there are some that will scoff. I've already seen the takes have already flown. Like, oh, who are they bidding against? They were bidding against Kyrie's ego, right? Like you had to give him a certain amount or else he's going to come back and do exactly what he did in Brooklyn last time and say, well, I don't want to be here. They don't appreciate me. Go where you're appreciated. All that kind of stuff. Like, you just don't want to have that when you already have a situation with Luka Doncic where that could be untenable soon too, where he can start getting frustrated. And then all of a sudden the guy that he looks up to is Kyrie, and the guy that he wanted to come to the Dallas is Kyrie. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with two disgruntled stars at that point. So to get him at the number they did, I thought was a good price.
Okay, so looking back to this last season, the Mavs did a little mini tank. I personally don't feel like I got to see the full picture of what Luka and Kyrie might be together. From your eyes, where do you see the potential of this partnership going?
Yeah, I don't think anyone did, right? Because lost in all of that. Yes, they did tank the last 2 games. It was the best decision for them. It was the best decision for them at the point. They got Derek Lively, they got Omax Prosper, they got Rashawn Holmes out of it. Like, all of that came out of just that, tanking those last 2 games and then coming up well in the lottery. So it didn't break the game either. Everyone's fine. Like, the NBA is still intact.
Yes.
But the two of them, like, lost in all that was they were injured at the end of the season, like back and forth. One of them would be out, the other one would be out. They were playing through injury. And so I don't think we saw the best of those guys either. I think they would say they didn't get the best out of them either because they had a really bad losing record while both of them played. And so now we get an offseason. Kyrie had mentioned right when he got traded, he mentioned, I've never been traded mid-season, so I don't know what it's like to jump into a new team and try and figure out how to coexist with all these guys. They were playing 2 different styles we talked about a lot, where Kyrie would play more fast-paced, and Luka, we know, is just the, pound the rock and like take the air out of the ball a little bit, but then he scores every time. So it just kind of works. So I agree with you that I think their best basketball, at least, oh God, I hope their best basketball is ahead of them.
What do you think that's going to look like, though? Like, how do you see those 2 skill sets complementing each other in the best way possible?
Yeah, they got to meet in the middle a little bit. I think that Kyrie knows how to win. Kyrie is a really smart basketball player and knows that you need a little bit more ball movement. You need a little bit more of a pickup. Let's go. Let's move with this Mavericks team, where Luka can be so incredibly efficient in the half court, but it takes the air out of all the rest of the players. And so they have to meet in the middle a little bit with that. Kyrie played off the ball really well. I see also a thing that they didn't utilize enough at all last year was Luka screening for Kyrie. We just need to see that. Luka's big enough to set a screen on pretty much anybody in the league. And so we need to see something like that. We saw a little bit of Kyrie screening for Luka, but not really the other way around. And so that's something they really need to unlock next year, especially if they can get, shooting all around them. Like, that just is going to be a deadly thing for them to work on. But of course, like, the defense still has to be number one.
You also brought up Derek Lively being added to the mix, the Duke University forward who the Mavs drafted in the 2023 NBA draft just recently. How do you see him playing a factor in this lineup now? And we know that Kyrie is a factor, the backcourt, shaping up pretty well. What do you see the front court looking like?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play a factor in the starting lineup. He should, I think, at some point, but he's 19. He's just coming into the NBA, so we'll give him a minute. He could be the next Walker Kessler and end up being a starting center, but that's not something I don't think the Mavericks are expecting, and I don't think we should be expecting from him at this point. And so the other part of Kyrie's deal that actually brings it back to this is he's making $126 million, which means that the Mavericks have opened the full mid-level exception. And so that means the Mavericks now have $12.4 million to go give to another player. I think they should still go after some kind of center, a stopgap center. We've been saying it for years that I don't think Lively's ready, but they need some kind of center to fix some of the issues they had last year, or another big wing, a Grant Williams or whoever he may be signed by while I'm talking here. We don't know. Anything could happen at this point, but that's what I think they need to do next. And now they're able to do it because Kyrie signed a deal that is less than max value.
It's chaos. Anything could happen next. Do you have any predictions or anyone you'd like to see the Mavs sign to address some of those issues you mentioned, both at the center or possibly a forward?
Oh, this is where I get to say a name, and then if that name doesn't come to the Mavericks, then it's like, well, Nick said that. Okay, Grant Williams, I think, is the next guy. I mean, he's the next guy the Mavericks have been linked to that the Mavericks should give probably the full mid-level exception. If Bruce Brown can get, $22 million a year, I think Grant Williams can get 12.
Got the bag.
So I think Grant Williams, they need a bigger wing. Grant Williams can guard bigger wings as well and forwards. That's a type of player they really, really need on this roster, especially next to Luka and Kyrie. He also shoots the three ball really well. So that's where I think they should go next. If not, then you're starting to look at, all right, who are the centers available? Then it's Mason Plumlee. And then, I'm not really into that as much. So that's where they should go next.
All right. Well, exciting times ahead. I'm excited to see exactly how this upcoming season shakes out, and still a lot more offseason to come. More moves to come, possibly. You never know. All right. Well, Nick Angstadt, Locked On Mavericks host. Appreciate you joining us and hanging out with us here as the craziness continues in the Locked On NBA Free Agency 2023 special. We'll have much more to come.